Well, good morning. We are once again back and ready for draft time for our NFL fantasy matchup. We have Jed and Jimmy today, and so welcome everyone.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning.
Jim, yesterday we had our draft last night with a group of friends that we've been playing with for the last 15 years. What stood out about the draft to you in terms of players that were picked, but even players that were, in some sense, not picked until the later rounds?
Well, I think we were just talking about this earlier. Ezekiel Elliott, Saquon Barkley, some of your more traditional running backs that you usually picked in the first round, they didn't go until like the third or fourth round. And so at the very top, you had the Justin Jeffersons of the world. Austin Eckler went early. Of course, Jonathan Taylor went first. Christian McCaffrey surprisingly went earlier than I thought. We were commenting yesterday about how I felt like some people overpaid on Joe Mixon, but I think they have more confidence in the Joe Mixon than the Saquon Barkley or even what do you call it? Even who's that? Who's the other? Oh, Ezekiel Elliott. So you do have a new change of the guard that's up front. Some people have thought, maybe Travis Kelce, this is going to be a down year for him. And then I went hard after Kyle Pitts. So that's one of the people I went for. So you'll be proud of me there, Jed.
Yeah, no, I'm high on Kyle Pitts this year. It's looking good down there. Marcus Mariota's been looking pretty sharp, so we'll see.
Yeah, from the quarterback standpoint, Tommy, let me tell you about my brother. Yeah.
Before you say that, Jim, now, Jed, this actually was not a snake draft, so it was an auction draft.
Yeah,
mm-hmm.
Go ahead.
Tommy, sorry, I'm eating breakfast, so I'm talking to you. Tommy waited until the very end to get his quarterback. Everybody was taking all the quarterbacks, right?
Yeah.
Josh Allen went first. Patrick Mahomes went first. Then Lamar Jackson, Justin Herbert. He was trying to get Jalen Hurts. I knew he was trying to get Jalen Hurts.
Who'd you get?
But at the end, it ended up Tom Brady.
Oh, that's not bad. That's top 10.
Now, at the same time, I didn't realize all these people were loading up on two quarterbacks. What are they doing? Saving trade chips or something like that? So I was very surprised.
We all got two quarterbacks. And I think when he finally realized other quarterbacks were off the board, that's when he started scrambling.
Yes.
If you got Tom Brady late, that's really good. I mean, Brady's could be top 10 for sure. I'm down on the Bucs this year because of their line. And if you've been reading, there's stuff about him, feeling like he's not as locked in this year or something. But that's not bad for really late. I mean, that's definitely still top 10.
I did not realize all the quarterbacks were gone until somebody got Matthew Stafford for $1. I said, Matthew Stafford went for $1. So I started scanning. Who else is left? Tom Brady and David Carr. Oh man, I better start picking quarterbacks. So I got him for $6.
Oh, that's fine. And David Carr, that's not bad either. I mean, with Devontae Adams down there, it's really interesting to see what happens.
Jet, I got Justin Herbert and Kyler Murray. Those are my two quarterbacks. Because I figure I could always use Kyler Murray if he does well as a trade bait later on.
Ah, interesting. Okay.
So is that why you were picking up quarterbacks, just for trade bait?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
Because you usually, some down the road, I can always offload them later on for something. I mean, I would like another better receiver because my two receivers are Terry McLaurin and then also Jamar Chase. I actually did pay pretty high for Jamar Chase, but Terry McLaurin was the other one I got.
That's good. McLaurin, Chase, and Kyle Pitts. That's a pretty strong receiving core.
And then my running backs is Travis Etienne and Leonard Fournette.
Oh, yeah. So both. Okay, that makes sense. So both of the. I mean, Etienne is good because you're swinging for the fences. You're hoping that he's healthy, and if he is, he could be really good.
Jed, on my end, a lot of times is even looking at the team. Am I happy with the team? For most part, I'm happy. I had zero desire to get Ezekiel Elliott. I think a lot of times you're going to see that. But suddenly he was at $12, $13. I finally got him at $19. I said, Ezekiel Elliott for $19, that's not bad. Let's just get him. Yeah. And then Cordero Patterson was at $16, $17.
He's a tough one, right? Because they said that he's not dual eligible anymore, right? He's locked in at. Is he locked in at RB?
No, wide receiver.
He's locked in at wide receiver. Yeah, I know he's locked in
Oh, I'm
at
sorry.
one.
RB,
No.
RB.
Yeah,
Locked in at
RB.
running back,
So
yeah.
that makes him less attractive, and then you just don't know how they're going to use him in Atlanta. So he's a tricky one. I really don't know where. But Zeke Elliott for that's cheap for under $20. But the other one is Tony Pollard. You guys, Tony Pollard behind Zeke Elliott. I actually, in some ways, like Pollard better than Zeke. I mean, Pollard is insane. If they can work him out, he could eventually take over for the number one in Dallas, I think.
Now, one of the things, group of people that I was surprised dropped really far, Adam Thielen was still sitting there. I think he got picked up for like $8. Robert Woods, maybe a couple of dollars. So those were the two that stood out to me.
Yeah, I'm not a fan of Robert Woods. You've always liked you've always been a big fan of Thielen. I'm not a huge actually the whole Justin Jefferson, top 5 pick. I'm not totally sure, not because I don't think I think Jefferson's amazing. I'm just not sold on Kirk Cousins. I mean, I feel like Kirk Cousins, 6 games out of the year, he's amazing. 6 games out of the year, he sucks. And so I don't know that, that's my worry there.
Yeah. CD Lamb went high. I knew my brother was going after Javonte Williams over at Denver. That was the person that he was really going hard after.
Interesting.
I was saving my chips for Dalton Schultz as a tight end, but then someone was bidding. It got up to a point where it was $20-something. I said, "There's no way I'm paying Dalton Schultz $20-something."
Yeah.
So I said, "Forget that." I ended up with Irv Smith. You could later on go with Freiermuth. You could later on go with Cole Kmet. All those guys. I said, there is no way I'm paying $20-something for Dalton Schultz.
Where did you were talking about Denver? Where did Russell Wilson go?
Russell Wilson went pretty decently high. I think they paid almost $20 for it. So,
wow.
I mean, there wasn't much value for Russell Wilson. I think people are betting. I mean, even like that escalated. Jerry Jeudy went up.
Yep.
Cortland Sutton went up.
Yeah.
I mean, if you look at the projection, all of them are projected to score more than 200 fantasy points this year, which is actually somewhat surprising because I'm like, but if you looked at the history of Tyler Lockett as well as also the other receiver, Metcalf, they've always consistently done well. So I'm guessing they're betting off of that.
Yeah. Metcalf's another hard one. Just don't know what's going to happen with the change of quarterback. So.
Dummy Me proposed James Robinson for $1, hoping someone would get him, but nobody picked him up. So I'm stuck with the roster spot with James Robinson. But at the end of the day, Jed, here's where I'm very, very happy by. At the last 3 rounds, I picked up Chris Godwin, Amon St. Brown, DeAndre Hopkins were the 3 I picked up toward the end.
How much for Godwin?
Maybe like $6, $7.
Oh, that's a steal. And then how much for Hopkins?
$3, $4.
I love that. I mean, Hopkins is what, 6 games? How many games is he out in 6 games? Yeah, that's really good, man. That's gonna pay off.
Tommy's strategy of going 8-8 and then picking up a bunch of good players to come in towards the end.
Yeah. That's my thing with Kyler Murray, Jimmy, is just I have a feeling we'll just see, he might struggle a little bit with Hopkins out. Yeah. So those first 6 games, I'm not sure, but after that, he should be fine.
It is funny how our strategies are different because Tommy's going after like the injured players. I'm going after potential rookies. So that's our different strategies that we go after.
Yeah. Hey, for those who are picking up DeAndre Hopkins, the one thing you need to know, he is not injured, but he's suspended. As a result, you can't throw him on IR. So if you pick up DeAndre Hopkins, you're stuck with him on your active roster for 6 weeks.
Ooh, that's a good differentiator. You're right. That's a big deal. Takes up that roster spot. That always hurts.
Yeah.
And so a lot of times if you're on the waiver, do I pick him up? So those are some of the things you need to do. Hey, our keeper draft is actually in next week, right?
Yeah, it is.
Yep, looking forward to it.
Yeah.
All right. Hey, let me go through a couple of news and notes. I want to look at players with you. Jim, I'll start off with you. Allen Lazard is held out of was held out on yesterday's preseason finale. He is slated to be the number 1 option for the departed Devontae Adams. Also, A.J. Dillon and Aaron Jones have been splitting up. If you were looking at the Green Bay offense, how much do you like Alan Lazard? And if you had to draft, would you pick AJ Dillon or Aaron Jones?
I think they're going to be pretty even. I don't know what you guys think. We actually did see that yesterday in our draft. What do you call it? AJ Dillon and Aaron Jones almost were going for the same amount, and I think they're going to use Dillon as more of the bruising back, and then Aaron Jones as more of the dump off back. I'm just not. I mean, I'm not really confident in Lazard. I just don't know how well he is. I do think that the person you might want to watch out for is Christian Watson, who's the rookie wide receiver for Green Bay. I actually think that he may end up being the better fantasy player at the end of the day.
Yeah, I'm not. Yeah, I'm not sold on Dillon, actually. I mean, I like Dillon a lot, but I'm not sold that it's going to be an equal timeshare. I think what Aaron Rodgers always does is he relies on those he knows and trusts. And so I feel like Aaron Jones is going to be the drop off, those little, he like does his progressions and then drops down.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Jed.
No, sorry. So I was just saying, I actually like Aaron Jones. I think he's still, to me, he's still top 10, like maybe on the outside edge. So I still like him. I just think I don't want to question Aaron Rodgers led team. I still feel like they're going to be better than people think. And I do agree with you, Jimmy, though, on the rookie wide receiver. I would take him over Lazard.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Yeah. Hey, now, Jet, let me ask you a quick question. With Aaron Rodgers, if you look at the quarterback, would you wait till the later rounds? If you're stuck with the Tom Brady, Aaron Rodgers, would you be happy with that?
Yeah, no, I think your strategy is great. If you want to wait till the, 6th, 7th, 8th round and you pick up a Aaron Rodgers or a Tom Brady, just think of all the extra capital you got up front. I mean, I've always loved waiting on quarterback. In fact, even in our keeper league, you guys know in our keeper leagues, actually, are you guys keeping quarterbacks in your keeper leagues? I've been debating dropping the quarterbacks because their value just isn't there.
I'm keeping Justin Herbert.
Yeah.
Jed, he loves Justin Herbert. I mean, look, he was overbidding on Justin Herbert. He just kept going up to 27. And there was another guy whining it. And I think he was willing to go up to $35 for Justin Herbert.
Mm-hmm. See, but here's the thing. Don't you guys – okay, so that's my only disagreement with you. Wouldn't you rather have a quarterback that you know is going to give you consistent 30-point games from a fantasy perspective and you have that locked in every week? So that's why, for me, I'd much rather overpay and find some good players towards the end because there's so much more wide receivers and potential running backs out there than a quarterback.
Yeah, I mean, it just depends. I mean, that's the nice thing. If you spend the money on, a good quarterback, you don't have to think about it anymore. But if you look at the production, the reality is, you can find quarterback production even in 10th, 11th, 12th. You can't find that same production in a wide receiver or running back at that same tier or level. That's why the money, if you look at the money, the average cost for the 10th rated quarterback is going to be lower than the 10th or rated running back or wide receiver. Yeah. But I hear you. I mean, I'm a big Kyler Murray fan, so I like sticking with him. And I do like, I would say this. Remember, I always say this every year. Think of the teams you think are going to be good this year, like the Chargers. And if you agree with that, then you draft accordingly. So then Justin Herbert becomes really big.
Yeah, but I'll tell you this. I will only pay this year for 2 quarterbacks. I will pay either for Justin Herbert or Josh Allen. I wouldn't even pay for Patrick Mahomes because I do think out of everybody else, those 2 will be consistent every week in and week out.
Yeah. Versus, I think a lot of times going with what Jed said is, if you're in a 10-team league, at the end of the day, your 10th rounder will probably be Jalen Hurts will still be sitting there. Matthew Stafford will still be sitting there. Brady, Mahomes will still be sitting there. I would even say Burrow would probably go in the 7th or 8th quarterback or something like that. So in some sense, for me, you're probably going to get 23, 25 points from those guys versus a Justin Herbert, Josh Allen, maybe 30 points. But I would rather save my money for a running back or decent running back, and Travis Etienne or Javonte Williams or something like that versus going for one of the top tier quarterbacks.
Yeah, it's basically everyone's strategy. You have to pick which 2 or 3 positions you're going to nail, and then which is the 1 or 2 positions that you're going to,
Mhm.
let kind of be kind of your weaker one, right? Like that's
Yeah.
every single year. That's what you got to decide.
Yeah. Jet, let me ask you a quick question. Antonio Gibson is expected to be the team's primary kick returner. Is Antonio Gibson even on your draft radar, or are you looking at Brian Robinson?
Well, Antonio Gibson is not on my radar mainly because he's on the Washington team. So Washington is one of the teams I'm avoiding like the plague. The Cleveland Browns are the other one. So Washington, I am not. I'm just, even though the only one person I'm looking at is Terry McLaurin, I really like him. I do, as much as I think Carson Wentz is a cancer, I do think he still is an upgrade. And so McLaurin is the one guy I might break for that, but not Gibson. I'm not. In fact, I'm just looking at my list. I've got Gibson outside of the top 20 running backs.
Now, with that said, Jed, what about Logan Thomas? Is he even on your radar? Because 2 years ago, last year was terrible, but 2 years ago, he was an up and coming tight end.
He was. I spent money on him too. But you know what? I don't even have Logan Thomas top 10 in the tight ends.
Got it.
He hasn't officially started practicing yet, right, Tom? Logan Thomas?
Mm-mm.
Yeah, so I think that's something to worry about. The other thing with Gibson, I was listening to one of the sports show, and they made a really good point. They said, if you found out that a player like Jonathan Taylor or even, let's say, Justin Jefferson was out there getting kickoffs and punts, wouldn't you worry about him? And the fact that they've had Antonio Gibson doing it means that they have other thoughts on running back besides just Antonio Gibson. He's not going to be a workhorse.
Jim, let's talk about the Seattle Seahawks backfield. Rashad Penny tests positive for COVID-19. Kenny Walker is your primary backup, but he's not even practicing as well, too.
Yeah.
Are you looking at any of the Seattle backfields for you to pick up with Chris Carson?
No, I was actually really thinking about Kenny Walker. He was actually somebody who I was like, oh, he might actually be a pretty good person to target. But they're thinking he might not even play week 1, maybe coming back week 2, week 3. And so as a result, Rashard Penny is going to be the number 1 running back. But the fact that he's on COVID means that my guess is, I don't know. I just don't think that Rashard Penny is going to keep it up. I mean, he had a great last half of last season. I just don't know if he's going to be able to stay put. And I think everything's going to be in flux.
I like, so here's my strategy. I like Penny. Remember that the Seahawks scheme is running oriented and they generally do pretty well. Not as well as like Denver or San Francisco, but in that same vein. So here's my thing with Penny. Just like you said, Tommy, Penny's going to have the sole number 1 back status for at least 2 to 3 games. COVID is, he's going to miss this preseason game, but he'll be fine for the regular season. I think he's going to have a great first 3 games, and then you could potentially trade him, thinking that he'll go then into a timeshare.
Bringing a Kenny Walker or something.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, very good. Okay. Hey, Jed, Michael Gallup will not start season on the PUP list. What do you think of Michael Gallup here coming in from injury?
Yeah, is he officially number 2 behind CD?
Uh-huh.
Yeah, so I mean, it's tricky in Dallas trying to figure out where those passes are going to go. But honestly, I'm high on CeeDee Lamb. I totally agree with him as the number 1. I think he's gonna be top 5, like going here on out. But I do think the number 2 wide receiver or receiving yards there is going to be Dalton Schultz. I don't think it's going to be Gallup. So I'm not as high on Gallup.
That's why Tolly Pollard, I think, is actually going to have some pretty good fantasy points this year because you're right. If they have only Dalton Schultz and CeeDee Lamb, who's going to be that third receiver, right? And I think they're going to start using Tolly Pollard more. So I'm with you. I think Tolly Pollard's going to have a great year.
So every year we always talk about like kind of bets for the season. We should go back to what our bets were last year and see how we did. But like one of mine is that Tony Pollard will end up with more fantasy points than Zeke Elliott at the end of the season.
Yeah.
Jim, Miami Dolphins backfield as well too. Well, number 1, a lot of times is how high, like Jalen Waddle, I ended up getting him for maybe about $12 or something like that. Do you like a Jalen Waddle on your team? And 2, your second question is, Chase Edmonds, someone picked him up for pretty cheap. No one picked up Raheem Mostert, and no one picked up Sony Michel. What do you think of the Miami backfield?
Well, going back to Jalen Waddle, Jed, I was bidding with Tommy for Jalen Waddle. But then I was like, he just got an MCL sprain. And so he hasn't been practicing or playing in the last preseason game. And they said word out of training camp is that Tyreek Hill has actually really done well and become that number one receiver with Tua. And so that's why I was like, I'm going to back off Jalen, right? Because I just don't want to overpay for him. At least with Chandler, I think it's going to be. So this is what everyone says. This, what do you call it? Mostert's going to get all the goal line, and remind me the name. Is it Chase?
Tony Michelle, Chase Edmonds.
Chase Edmonds is going to get. I mean, he'll get the bulk of the carries and get the bulk of the throw-ins, but he's not going to get the touchdowns this year. So that's why for me, any of these shared running back positions, I'm not going for it.
Yeah, and especially in Miami. I mean, I agree with you. I would stay away from that, at least spending high on it. I mean, if you're picking it, you're getting like value, then I think the Miami backfield's fine. Jalen Waddle's interesting. I disagree with you a little bit in that I like the fact that Tyreek Hill is doing well. I think it all depends on what you think of Tua. Because here's the thing with Waddle. To me, Tyreek Hill is going to be the deep threat, and then Waddle should be the guy getting the underneath stuff. But here's the thing. What is Tua better at? Tua is better at the under 20-yard throws. The whole book on him is he can't throw over 20 yards. So who is that? That to me is going to be Waddle. And so I kind of think he might be a steal if you get him, if you get him like $12, that's pretty good if you got him for 12.
Jed, that was exactly my thought on it. Look, we always know in terms of Tyreek Hill is going to be the guy that goes all out. And he's probably going to get 3 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. But Jalen Waddle is probably going to get 10 catches for 90-something yards, and the touchdowns are something like that. And a lot of times your primary cover guy is going to be covering Tyreek Hill. That's the only reason I like Jalen Waddle so much, because of Tua and his ability not to be able to throw the deep ball.
Well, but that's the one thing is Tua. Like, it all depends on Tua having progressed. If it's the same Tua as last year, then I don't know. Then there's a cap on, how much upside there is. But if he does progress and he improves, then that could be a real steal.
Yeah. So I don't know if I told you I'm in Miami right now. And I was watching the early morning news today, and they were talking about football, like tips out training camp. They said, watch out for their backup quarterback, Skylar Thompson. He was picked up in the latter rounds, has impressed during preseason. And the guy was saying, don't be surprised if in the middle of the season they make a quarterback change to Skylar Thompson.
That's horrible that the local guys are already like so worried about.
I guess he's got an arm, he can throw. They said he's everything Tua isn't. And they said, don't be surprised if Tua's going to be benched by the middle of the season.
Oh, that scares me. Honestly, that really scares me for any of the position players in Miami then.
Jed, Miles Sanders still not practicing Wednesday. Is he even on your radar? Because for me, I don't like spending any capital on Miles Sanders at all.
Yeah, agree. I'm totally off of the Sanders. I'm on the Jalen Hurts wagon, but not the Sanders wagon. He just didn't pay out last year if you look at it. And so I'm not investing in any of the backfield in Philly.
Yeah. One more before I go to Jimmy. Elijah Mitchell, hamstring on track to return week 1. Last year, Elijah Mitchell also struggled with hamstring issues as well too. What do you think of that one, Jed?
No, yeah, I agree. I mean, that's worrisome. I think injuries, especially for the run, that's the whole problem with the running back, is finding those who, really are, consistent and like healthy. And so, no, I'm staying. The whole San Francisco, I'm down on the whole San Francisco side.
Yeah. I mean, I think that's the other thing I've kind of started realizing. If any of these especially running backs, but wide receivers too, have hamstring injuries, I usually stay away from them, because they said unless you give it an extended time where you can rest, most of the time it doesn't heal up and you're just kind of getting by, right? And so it always, if you're making one wrong move, it's going to come back to you again. So that's why for me, any hamstring injuries, I try to stay away from.
Yeah, I was just looking at Mitchell. I think he's roughly, I have him at like the 25th roughly running back, so it's pretty far down.
The only thing with Mitchell is there really isn't a good backup over in San Francisco with Mostert gone. And Breida is gone as well too. And plus, where does he come in from? The old Shanahan Denver running back scheme. That's the only reason that I've really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
but
that's
go ahead.
no, go ahead.
But think about it. They got Trey Lance, right? So given that Trey Lance is going to be able to run, given that they have Debo Samuel, I don't think they're really going to need another running back. They might have an Elijah Mitchell and they might throw in like a second option.
Where's Sermon? What happened to Sermon? Is he like even on the?
Oh yeah,
chart
he's there, but I don't think they've really focused on him as much. You know,
Yeah.
I remember he was like the top
Oh,
guy
he
we
was
were all
huge.
going after last year.
Yeah, yeah.
But I think they're gonna use Debo. They're gonna go after his receivers. They're gonna tell Trey Lance to run. I think that's their plan. That's why I just stayed away from Elijah Mitchell.
So Debo, I disagree with you on Debo, and I think it's a weird one. But so in his new contract, supposedly he basically built in all these extra incentives for if they use him as a running back, because supposedly he doesn't want to do that. Like he wants to focus on just being a wide receiver. And so if that's the case, he's a lot less attractive. I think in most draft boards, he's going right around like 11, 12. So I don't know though. I feel like that's risky because you just don't know what's going to happen with his usage.
Yeah.
Oh, I see where he's coming from. If you're a running back, you take all the hits, and there's so much mileage on your legs, and you have the potential to be injured. And running backs, they'll just keep overusing you. And in a couple of years, when you're wear down, they'll just get rid of you.
Yeah, exactly. It's smart on his part. But from a fantasy perspective, if you take out his rushing stats, he's a lot less attractive.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. Hey, Jim, let me ask you a quick question. After Justin Jefferson and Jamar Chase, who's the third best wide receiver in your book that you love?
I think CeeDee Lamb. I think CeeDee Lamb actually, I mean, I have him in a number of dynasties, right? I think if Amari Cooper was there, last year he was okay, but this year he's going to be the number one receiver, and Prescott has nobody else to throw towards. I think, I think CeeDee Lamb would be the person I would
No
go at.
Cooper Kupp. Come on, man. Cooper
No,
Kupp.
see, I mean, okay, so I think Cooper Kupp will be really good. I think you're still going to see a drop off from last year. Like the numbers he put up last year, he won't be able to duplicate that.
Yeah, I mean, just remember, so as a stat guy,
Yeah.
generally you have regression to the mean, right? So people who have great seasons, it's very rare that they also have a great season the next year. I mean, how many times have we seen it? The number one fantasy scoring wide receiver and running back from the previous season are not number one the next
Oh,
season.
no,
So
yeah,
it's rare.
Yeah. So that's why for me, like, I'll take a chance. I'll take a chance more on a CeeDee Lamb than the Cooper Kupp this year, purely because the ceiling, I think, for CeeDee Lamb will be a lot higher, and you don't know where Cooper Kupp was going to go.
Yeah. And plus, at the same time, you have Allen Robinson there as well, too. And so I don't count on Allen Robinson because he's been always a historically very, very good wide receiver. And so, of course, he's going to take some touches away from him.
Oh, I like Allen Robinson. I think he's going to enjoy having a stellar quarterback. And we all know he's got serious talent. His hands are, I think, some of the best in the league. So I think Robinson is a great sleeper pick.
And don't you think he's going to want to stick it to the Bears? You know, like to be able to say, look, you people all gave up on me. You didn't think anything of me. He's going to stick it to them.
Oh, yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Jet, in terms of even wide receivers, I was very surprised. A lot of times people avoided Kadarius Toney. So not a lot of people. Amon-Ra St. Brown was there toward the end. And so a lot of times people are still hesitant about Detroit. But everybody was going after T. Higgins. He went very, very high. T. Higgins and also is it DJ Moore over at Carolina?
Yeah, I mean, T. Higgins, well, yeah, everyone's banking on Cincinnati's, offense to continue. And so if that's the case, it's possible that Jamar Chase and T. Higgins could both be top 10. I mean, there's that much passing in that offense. I like that. I mean, I'm not necessarily shying away from that. I also like DJ Moore. I think DJ Moore, again, the quarterback play this is the best quarterback he's probably had in 3-4 years. So, and DJ Moore is a serious talent. So I have no problems picking him. And if you're thinking that, I mean, he's roughly 12, 13, 14. If you're thinking he maybe can squeeze in the top 10, I wouldn't disagree with that.
I like DJ Moore a lot. I think he's actually going to have a pretty decent year. I mean, think about it. Look at all the stats that he's had the last few years with really, really bad quarterbacks, right?
Yep.
And this year, he's actually got a pretty decent quarterback. I think I would argue he's got the best quarterback he's had in a long time. I think you're going to get to see some good fantasy numbers coming from DJ Moore.
Jim, with the Pittsburgh, Deontay Johnson, of course, you're going to pick him as well too. Chase Claypool, is he even on your radar? Is he someone that you even like this year?
That was Jimmy's guy last year.
No, I've been disappointed by Chase Claypool. You know what, the person, if I were to choose a Pittsburgh receiver outside of Deontay Johnson, it would be George Pickens. He's a guy who I've been really looking at from a dynasty perspective. I think he's the person. If you got a spot, you got in a dynasty league, he's the person that you want to target.
Well, I was hoping not to mention George Pickens, so I could just slide in and pick him up later on.
Oh, no, I like Pickens too. And talking about Steelers, Juju Smith-Schuster in Kansas City now is very, very interesting. Although I do think in Kansas City, it looks like they're trying to make the offense much more spread and not as focused on one or two wide receivers as they have in the past. So that's the one danger. But really, if you look at the core, Juju Smith-Schuster, he could really emerge.
Yeah, there's a couple of receivers in that middle section that are intriguing to me. Juju Smith-Schuster is one. DJ Moore is one. Gabriel Taylor is one. T. Higgins. Even AJ Brown to a certain extent. Those guys are really intriguing from a potential high ceiling.
Yeah, because suddenly we all agree your top tier in terms of wide receivers are Cooper Kupp, Justin Jefferson, and Jamar Chase. Whether you like Cooper Kupp or not, he's at least in the top tier. Your second tier becomes Mike Evans, CeeDee Lamb, Stephon Diggs, Devontae Adams, Tyreek Hill, and supposedly Mike Williams over Keenan Allen. What do you guys think? Jed, what do you think about Mike Williams?
I'm high on Mike Williams. I like him a lot. He actually had better stats than Keenan Allen last year. Do you guys know that? He had better fantasy stats than Keenan Allen. No one thinks about that. But again, this is the thing. To me, the Chargers are one of the teams you want to latch onto this year. So you want to get a piece of that offense. So I think either of those guys, they're going right next to each other in most drafts, and I think that's fine.
But let me tell you, let me ask you about Mike Williams. The one thing that he has been is he's had a lot of back problems as well too, and so there will be periods where he's injured. Does that concern you a little bit about Mike Williams?
Well, not last year. He did a lot. I think last year's the most games he played. The previous 2 years ago, yes, he had missed a lot. But Keenan Allen too. Keenan Allen for a long time. Remember, he was on IR all the time. So I don't know. I think you roll the dice with that.
I mean, here's my thing, right? Like, okay, let's just say both of them stay healthy this year. Tommy drafted Keenan Allen in our draft last year. So this is what I thought. If you pick Keenan Allen, you're going to know he's going to get somewhere between 15, 18 fantasy points consistently every week. That's just how Keenan Allen is. If you get Mike Williams, 1 week you're going to get like 30 points. Another week you might get 5 points, right? So I do agree with you, Jed, that yes, he did score more over the season, but from a week in and week out, the question then becomes, where is he placed, right? If I'm looking for a second wide receiver, I'm going to go for Keenan Allen. If I'm looking at a third receiver, then I'm going to choose a Mike Williams over Keenan Allen. That's how I kind of look at it.
Jim, the two players that we saw yesterday, Rashad Bateman, who is the clear number one in Baltimore, went very low. Yeah. Gabe Davis, who is your second wide receiver, went very, very high. Thoughts on those two?
You mean Gabriel Taylor?
Gabriel Davis over at Buffalo.
Oh, I thought that was Taylor. Isn't Gabriel
Davis?
Taylor?
Yeah, you said that earlier, and I was like, I think he means Davis.
Oh, is it Davis? Oh, whoever it is, I love Gabriel Davis. I think, and I was so upset when someone took him. I think he's gonna overcome Stephon Diggs this year and become potentially a 1A receiver.
No way.
No, seriously. I think Josh Allen and him have this great relationship. Mark Martin, seriously, Jed, he might not surpass Stephon Diggs, but he's going to be 1A. I have high.
So that should be your bet to say that he's going to match, he's going to equal or surpass Diggs's points by the end of the year.
Trust me, he's that good. He's got that great
I
relationship.
know and in the preseason, he's definitely been lighting it up. That's for sure.
Jed, Michael Thomas was picked up. Devontae Parker was not picked up. Thoughts?
Oh, really? Yeah.
Michael Thomas was picked up for like $3.
Okay.
Nobody
Okay.
wanted him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
For $3, I might do that.
Yeah.
I still, the Saints are really interesting. They're a tricky one. Actually, I think the hardest one is Alvin Kamara there. Like, what is going on with the Saints? And do you really think Kamara can be, I don't know if he can be what he used to be. I'm a little bit hesitant. But $3 for Michael Thomas, I would take that. And who was the other one you said?
Devontae Parker in New England, number 1 wide
Oh,
receiver.
yeah, I like that. I actually so I was a Parker fan when he was in Miami. And when I saw that New England picked him up, and I was like, that's really interesting. He could be, but I always feel like the wide receivers in New England are fool's gold, right? Every year we're like, we want to pick a wide receiver out of New England, and every year the wide receivers are not who you want. Like, you'll maybe want a running back out of there, but the offense is always so spread that it's very hard to find someone who gets a lot of points. But I would definitely follow that, because I like Parker's talent a lot.
Yeah, no, Jed. I don't know about that. I'll roll the dice on Michael Thomas before Devontae Parker.
Yeah, that's probably
At the
fair.
same time, Mac Jones is not a long thrower, but he's consistent. They have to throw to somebody, and Devontae Parker has been pretty consistent. Because who else are they going to throw to? Jacoby Meyer? They're just not going to do it.
Damian Harris and Ramondre Stevenson. That's who they're going to go after.
Or Hunter Henry. Hunter Henry might be a good option over there as well, too. Yeah. All right. Hey, let's talk, Jim. Let's talk about snake draft a little bit versus auction draft, because a lot of people do like that snake draft. 10-team league, right? 10-team league in terms of quarterback. You love Josh Allen, Justin Herbert. How high are you picking them up? 3rd or 4th round? Or you're going to wait until the 5th or 6th round to see who's out there and risk losing a Josh Allen, Justin Herbert?
Yeah, I've done a couple mock drafts, right, for a snake draft, and I've been picking them up on the 3rd and 4th round, around that area, because I found that if I come back again towards me, they're not gonna be there as well too. So I know that's high. I know that's not what you guys would do, but for me, because I like Josh Allen, Justin Herbert that much, and I want that consistent player, I'll go for it. So that's where I'm at.
Jed, would you pick? I know a lot of times 3rd, 4th. What would you do if you love Josh Allen and Josh Allen that much, Patrick Mahomes that much? Would you pick them up in the 3rd, 4th round?
I mean, yeah, if you like them that much, I think I wouldn't go earlier than 3rd, and ideally 4th. I always do think you want to wait as long as you can, but a lot of fantasy is about having fun, and if you like those guys, get them, put them on your team. It's a lot funner playing fantasy when you got guys on your team that you can cheer for and that you like. And I always think 1 or 2 of my guys, I'm gonna pick someone that I just really like. It's also why, as much as I think Deshaun Watson is great, I'm not touching the guy. I think he could win. I think he could win somebody a championship once he comes back. And I think, kind of like you like to do, Tommy, someone takes him and stashes him. And then that could be really strong play, but man, I'm not doing that. I don't want to win with that.
Yeah. Speaking of quarterbacks, Lamar Jackson, what do you think of him? He's at the middle tier. He's in the midst of a new contract. He was your MVP at one time. How high would you pick Lamar Jackson? You said if he's sitting there at the 8th round, I'll do it.
Oh, for sure. No, I think he's still top 3. I know people are they're upset that he's not, they haven't focused much on his passing and saying Baltimore is not using him the right way. He should be a pure pocket passer. But from a fantasy perspective, man, this guy is gold. I think if anything, Josh Allen, because of the passing, he can still run too. He's definitely, I think, pretty much the clear number 1, but I have Lamar Jackson number 2 on my board.
Yeah. Jim, any other final thoughts on quarterbacks? And then next week when we get together, probably on Wednesday, I want to talk about running backs and tight ends as we head into the final week of the draft.
So the only reason I would potentially look at Lamar Jackson, right? I'll disagree with you on one point. I think the top 3 quarterbacks are Josh Allen, Patrick Mahomes, Justin Herbert, right? After that, from a fantasy standpoint, I would really look at a Jalen Hurts, Tom Brady, potentially a Kyler Murray or Aaron Rodgers. So for me, Lamar Jackson is somewhere in there. He's up for a contract. He wants to be paid. He wants to be one of the top paid quarterbacks. Because of that, I think he's motivated this year to have a really good year. So that's why, look, if I come around the draft and let's say there's a point where Josh Allen is off the board, Justin Herbert's off the board, and right there is a Lamar Jackson staring at me, and this is what, 4th, 5th, maybe 6th round, I would really think about doing it because he's motivated to have a good year this year.
I like that you brought up the contract. I love contract year players. They always pay out.
No, right? I mean, like I think he's going to be motivated. Like, okay, so here's the thing: Lamar Jackson or Jalen Hurts?
Oh, Lamar Jackson for me.
Oh, Jalen Hurts for me.
Yeah, I mean, I think Hurts is still a little more unknown. Lamar Jackson's an MVP, man. He's like this guy, you know what you're gonna get. But I agree, Hurts could have. I mean, he's one of the guys that I definitely highlight. He could have a huge year this year.
I would say the only concern about Lamar Jackson though is what? Okay, number one receiver is Mark Andrews. We don't know where J.K. Dobbins is. Rashad Bateman last year was the first year as a starter. They think he's going to do well, but he's had some injury concerns as well too, right? Who else is there for him to throw to? That's the if he had another good receiver, I would say okay, let's go with Lamar Jackson, but he doesn't.
Yeah, that's a good point.
Jim, let me go over. If you were to look at the young quarterbacks, which of these quarterbacks do you think will emerge as a star quarterback this year? Out of the young group, Trevor Lawrence, Justin Fields, Trey Lance, Zach Wilson, or other? Mac Jones, whatever it is.
Yeah. You know, that's actually a really good question. So Vegas, this is the Vegas odds. I was just reading about it the other day. Vegas has put Trevor Lawrence as the quarterback they think is going to progress the most this year. But Trey Lance, I think, is what a lot of fantasy people have their high bets on as well too. So I would say out of that list, for sure, Trey Lance, Trevor Lawrence. Out of those two, I would say I would put my bet on Trey Lance.
I'm going with Trevor Lawrence. I think if ETN can be a pick up, and I don't know, I like Lawrence. I think I'm not sold on Trey Lance, but we'll see.
Their best wide receiver is Christian Kirk. You know, I know they've got a lot of weapons, but Christian Kirk versus the offense of Trey Lance, I'll go with Trey Lance.
Yeah. No, I hear you.
Yeah. Hey, last question and we're going to wrap up as well too. As we head into the draft, who is one player that you would tell everyone who's listening today, make sure you pick them in the last round. People aren't paying attention to them, but make sure you pick them in the last round or last few rounds as well too. Let me give you guys a minute to think about this. The one for me that you need to pay attention to that I think would really help you. Dameon Pierce, starting running back for the Houston Texans. Lovie Smith loves to run his running backs. Dameon Pierce has been very, very impressive. The only concern is in college, he has never surpassed 100 carries. But Dameon Pierce is someone that you need to pay attention to if he's sitting there that you could get in the cheap later rounds.
Yeah, that's a good one. I've definitely heard my oldest son was actually talking about. He said, "Hey, that Houston running back, I think could be good." I was like, "Yeah, it's not a bad pick." You guys already heard mine. I mean, I think Tony Pollard. He's the number 2 in Dallas. You should be able to get him pretty late. If you draft Zeke Elliott, you better get Pollard as your handcuff. But you should be able to sneak him in pretty late. And so that's the one I would target.
Yeah, mine is Alec Pierce. He's the wide receiver for the Indianapolis Colts. He's progressed quite a bit. He's everyone raves about him because they said that he's such a great quarterback. They can see him very much progressing during training camp. So I think Alec Pierce is the person I would pick up.
Wonderful. All right, I think we're coming back on Wednesday, and so I'm not sure about you. I have a lot of drafts at night, so my wife is a little upset that I have so many drafts next week. So it's gonna be a busy week for everyone.
Thanks.
Thanks, everybody.
All right, see you soon.